or an international site?
Well, international.
All right, so it's week 8 and we're back. Thank you for those of you who are here on time. Hope everybody had a good week. I'm sure it won't be empty for too long. Okay. I'm just sort of firing up our application from week 6. I've started my local MongoDB. You don't need to start yours. I just want to show you where we kind of left off. It was less than 7. That's a really good point. Maybe I should, and I should probably actually start the application. I forgot we had a regular class in lesson 7. Thank you. Certainly helps. So when we ran our application from lesson 7, we had these 3 pages, which we did in week 6, or 5 and 6. We had our users and our random page, and then we had our articles. So we had our list of articles. I have my local MongoDB running, and then I could add a title and content and save, and my article got added to the database. So we had this working, and we also were able to edit. This is kind of where we left off with our application. So what I had hoped to do was also have delete functionality enabled. We didn't have time to do it. So what I want to do is add the delete functionality in here. We're going to basically hopefully do 3 things today. Although our third topic will probably spill into next week. Number 1, we want to get delete functionality here. So after we go into edit an article, we're going to want a delete button here with a confirmation. And if we say yes, delete it, we'll want to use our model to get rid of that record. Not a record, that document from our MongoDB. That'll be step 1. Step 2, what I'd like to do is try pushing this whole thing online. However, in order to do that, we're going to need an online database, right? Obviously, our local database is not going to work except when we're running things locally. So what we're going to want to do is create a MongoDB in the cloud using, well, what was formerly called MongoLab, and a week or 2 ago, they changed their name to MLab. So we're going to want to create a free database on MLab. Then we should be able to connect our local application to our cloud database, and then we should be able to push the whole thing to the cloud, to Azure or Heroku, and have our application access our database on MLab. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to get into the Passport NPM package and adding authentication to our Node application. So we may not finish that this week. We'll see how far we get. If we finish it this week, then maybe next week what we'll do is we'll do part 2 with authentication. We'll also look at doing using social sign-on for Node. There are a number of NPM packages for that as well. So that's kind of the plan. So I'm going to stop my application. So the first thing I want you to do is to open up a command prompt and just get your local MongoDB server running. So you just need to browse into whatever directory you have your MongoDB files and run the MongoD command here with --db path, and then the path to your data folder, which for some of you is a little more complicated than others. Is it running though? Okay. I changed the, you have to use sudo to do it?
I have no idea what I typed in. I found it on YouTube and it worked.
Okay.
That's what I did too.
So make sure that you have an active session your database is running. So what we'll do is we'll use the Express generator to create a brand new application, and then we'll copy over the model's roots and views from our previous application. If you want to just work on your previous application and keep going with it, that's fine. I'm going to create a new one. So I've got MongoDB running in one command prompt. I'll just minimize that. So now in a second command prompt, I'm just in my root node folder, and I'm going to use the Express generator to build a lesson 9 application. So I'll run express lesson 9. Thank you. -E, so that we're using EJS for the templating. So this will just build out the regular kind of initial express scaffold. We'll have this blank application. And then I'll change directories into lesson 8 and I'll run npm install. So that does the install of Express, Morgan, the cookie parser, the body parser. Our application is going to need Mongoose. So we're also going to want to use the npm install to add Mongoose to our new application. Because Mongoose is that driver that we're using for letting Node talk to MongoDB. So install Mongoose as well. So now my application should run, but all the work we've done previously isn't integrated. We're just going to get a generic Express site. If I start this with npm, my application should run, but we just have like the single page Express generator site. So what we want to do is take our several of the folders, all the stuff we've created over the last few weeks in lessons 5, 6, 7. I want to copy those into the lesson 8 folder. So I'm just going to open up my lesson 7 project. 3rd. So here's what I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy models, roots, views, and I'm going to copy app.js as well because it has our database connection. So I'm going to copy those 3 folders plus that 1 file. And all I'm going to do is paste them into lesson 8. So basically all the stuff we've created that has all of the files we've changed. We haven't changed anything in public or node modules or bin. So models, roots, views, and our app.js. We'll copy all of those. I'll just leave that window open. So you can see. So here's the lesson 8 application I just created. So it has roots and views, and app.js doesn't have the models folder. So I'm going to paste and say, yes, replace everything. So now our applications look almost the same. Really, the only difference is that I've got a README file in lesson 7, which I don't have for lesson 8. So now I'm going to open up my lesson 8 directory with my code editor. And we'll also want to modify package.json so that we're using NodeMon.
If we're continuing on with our.
Then you don't have to do anything. Just start your application. Open it in your code editor. Yeah, you certainly can keep working on the same one. This way, I have a completed version of each week that I can push to GitHub, so it's easier that I have individual. So here's app.js. It's connecting to, so I guess, hope if I open the right project. So I'll open my new lesson 8 folder. So most of this is generator. You know, we added this link to Mongoose. We added this link to our articles controller. And we added our database connection. And when our application starts, it tries to connect, and it will either print to our console that we're connected to MongoDB, or else it'll print an error message. In package.json, I'm also just going to change the start line on line 6 from using the node process to using NodeMon instead. So now our app will be restarting automatically. This should now be an exact duplicate.
When I try and install everything in my lesson, it says couldn't read it.
When you just run npm install, try with sudo. Let's see if it couldn't read dependencies.
Install.
Like, and I tried exiting the window and putting it back on.
Okay, what does your direct? So go in Finder, go into the directory. Do you have a node modules folder?
Well, no.
Okay.
In my lesson 8?
Yeah. Okay. The other thing, do you have the node modules in lesson 7? Okay, let's try this. Through Finder, copy the node modules folder from lesson 7 to lesson 8. You don't have to use npm. You can do a manual install. So that means you put the files in node modules, and then you just have to add these dependencies into package.json. The npm install does both of those things for you. It downloads the packages from the npm site into node modules, and it writes the dependencies into package.json. But if you do it manually, it should still work.
So I have those modules, and I have to make my own package.json file.
If you don't have one, you know what? Actually, let's try this first. You know what you may have to try before you do it? Try npm init first. And let's see, because that generally prompts you to create the package.json. Let's see if that works. Does it do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so go through that and then try the npm install again. And if it doesn't work, then you just have to copy the dependencies and just let me know, and I'll put my package.json up so you can see what goes in there. Or you can copy that dependency section from lesson 7.
I just got a warning,
What does it say?
but it worked.
Okay. So try it. The npm install work now? Okay. So that's our fix, is to reinitialize npm. For some reason, it wasn't initialized. So I should be able to run my application now. Well, it's running, but I want to run it with NodeMon. We'll execute npm start. My console is logged that I'm connected to MongoDB. So now if I refresh, this should be an exact duplicate of our lesson 7 application. Right? I have these pages we did back in lessons 5, and then the articles connect in my local database. So we're basically back to where we left off, just with a new application, but it's the exact replica of the previous one. So there's a few files in here we're going to need to modify for delete. We're going to want a delete button on our edit view. We're going to need to write a delete root handler in our articles, our root/articles.js. We're also going to want to create a small JavaScript file that will contain a pop-up confirmation. So we're going to need to do all of these things. And then we're going to make some changes with our database once we have delete working. If you don't have a working copy of the application, my lesson 7 is on GitHub. So you can take that application and you can use you could create your own lesson 8 and copy in my roots, views, and models and app.js into your new project if you don't have working copies of your own. I believe it's here right from the end of class. Yep, so there it is. So I want to open up in my views, we want to open up articles edit.ejs. So once a user's looking up an article, they can save changes. We're going to want to put another button on here that will perform a delete. So after this first button, I'm going to put on a second one. We'll make the delete button red. So I'll use Bootstrap's danger class, which will give it a red background and white text. And this is going to be a type equals button. It's not going to be a submit button. It's just basically we're going to make it, we'll wrap it inside of a link tag. And the text can just say delete. So I'll go back and refresh my view and just make sure I've got a red delete button beside my blue save button for starters. So that's how it should look at the moment. Doesn't do anything.
But if you have a missing start string,
That's what it's looking for. Check your package.json. Are you missing line 6?
yeah, I'm missing a lot.
You could copy your package.json. If your lesson 7 is working, you can just copy that whole package.json and change the name from lesson 8 to lesson 9. If you don't have it, you can also just copy and paste that from my Git repo. So let's think about where this button should actually go. It doesn't go anywhere yet. So these are the different root handlers we've set up so far. So when we get a request at /articles, we're displaying the list of articles. When we had our get request at /add, we displayed our blank form. When we got a post request that adds a new article and directed. When we got a request like this, / with an ID parameter, we were looking up the article and displaying it in an edit form. So we're going to need one more root handler for this button. What URL do you think would make sense? What would be a kind of friendly URL for this button to go to? It's actually just going to go to an invisible page. The user doesn't need to see anything. If we sort of follow our formatting of our URLs, where should that button go to? Okay, so it will go, yeah, so it'll take them back to the previous page. Eventually, we'll redirect them there. So the button, if we don't want it to go there directly, right? If they just click it, we still need to process the delete first. So we need an intermediate URL. And then we will want to redirect back here. So what might the format look like of this URL? Seems like a good idea. So it will be localhost / article / delete, and then the article ID on the end of it. So we want to wrap this button inside of an anchor. So we want this to go to /articles / delete. And now we need to append the ID on. We're already displaying fields. In fact, there's the value right here that we need to go at the end of our URL. So we're going to open up server-side tags. And we want to append on the _ID value at the end of that link. And I can give it a title. So this closing anchor tag comes down here, right? So our red delete button is inside of that anchor. So we're going to call this URL that's going to read that ID, going to grab that, go to use our model to delete that from MongoDB. And then as Brandon said, we'll redirect back to the main articles page, and that article should be gone from our list. What'll happen if I refresh and click my delete button right now? Well, it won't do a delete. So I pick an article. We can see in the status bar the URL it's going to call, /articles / delete, and it does have that auto-generated ID from MongoDB on the end, so that's good. Why do we have 404? Yeah, because we haven't handled that URL in our root file. We haven't told Node what to do with the request at this URL. So just like we've mapped all of these other requests, we now need one more handler for delete. Is this a get or a post request? Which type do we need here? How is this page being loaded? Yeah, it's using get because it's just a link. So we're going to need get handler for delete using the article ID. So we're writing a get handler like we've done several times before. And it's going to run at this URL, delete / and then a colon ID. So remember that colon indicating that value is a parameter. And then we've got our usual callback function with request response and next. So if we were to run the page now, it would spin forever because we haven't said what we're doing here, but our 404 goes away. Our application now understands what to do with the GET request at that URL. So we want to grab the ID parameter from the URL. We'll create an ID variable, and we'll get it from, oops. A request object has a parameter collection, and in the parameter collection, we can refer to it by name. So this has to match this. Now we have that unique ID in a variable. And because we have our article schema that we created several weeks ago that defines what an article looks like, we use this, so we've used some built-in methods of Mongoose already. When we added a new article, we called the create method. When we wanted to list all the articles, we called the find method. When we wanted to save changes, we called an update method. All of these were here. So here was our update. We had find by ID, create, and find, which lists them all. So we want to call a different method. Anybody want to take a wild guess? The Mongoose method name that'll do a. It's close. It's actually not delete, but it's a similar word. You got it. So article.remove will process a delete. So what we have to pass in here to article.remove the first thing we've got to specify is the ID value. So we pass in the ID and a callback function, which will check whether we get an error or not. So if we have an error, let's log it. And send that error message to the browser as well. Guess I could. So that's what happens if we get an error. If we get no error, what should we do? Brandon, I'll ask you because I think you already gave us the answer. Yeah, so if the remove works, let's take the user back. So we'll use rows.redirect, and we'll take them back to the main articles page. So there's our full code for doing the delete from line 94 down to line 109. Grab the ID from the URL, call the remove method that's built into Mongoose, and evaluate what kind of response we got back. Did we get an error? If we got no error, we're probably safe to redirect. Delete probably worked. So we'll try this out. If this is working, the next thing we're going to want to do is add a JavaScript confirmation. We should probably idiot-proof this in case somebody accidentally clicks the delete button. Let's give them a chance to cancel that request. So we can use a little bit of JavaScript and jQuery to do that. I'm going to try it out. I'll put the code back up in a minute. So if I go to delete, yeah, that article's gone. So our root file now has all the code we need for doing create, read, update, and delete. We're just using those 5 built-in methods from Mongoose. Find by ID, create, update, and remove. And they handle all of our database operations.
Might redirect as under 900 saying unresolved function or method.
Don't worry about that. Does anybody have any questions about this function and what's happening here? Anybody get their delete to work yet?
Mine just redirects with no errors at all anywhere. So it must have something to do with my error.
So what's probably happening in that case, well, first of all, is there an error in the log in your console?
Nothing.
Okay. What could be happening is this value, right? Let's just check it in several places. So make sure you've got :ID here, that this is .request.params.id here.
Mine is purple instead of gray.
Mine is 2, and my params is gray.
And my both params and ID is purple. So it must be getting.
Well, let's make sure we've got :ID. I'm thinking about why that might be. You've got ID here, and in this little JSON array, it's _ID : and then ID without the colon. Do your links go when you mouse over it? I know it's a little bit hard to see from back there. See the status bar. So it should be going, your link should be going to /articles, /delete, / and the ID. Is that correct?
Mine just says delete.
Okay, so if that's the case, if you don't see the ID here, then there's a problem here, right? Because that value is not being included. So something in this section I've highlighted in blue is there's probably something different in your view. Otherwise, we'd be seeing the ID on the end of those URLs. So those are the 2 things to check. The spacing here doesn't matter. You can write this with or without these spaces. I find the code's a little easier to read if the spaces are included. And that's _ID here because that's the name of that field in the articles collection in the database. That's what MongoDB auto generates, is that _ID value.
I think everything's correct, but it's still just redirecting.
Okay, I'll come have a look at a break. So I also want to add, we really should add a JavaScript confirmation to this. So we haven't used this public folder at all. We're going to use it now. Node gives us a default style sheet here, which is very simple. I want to create a simple JavaScript file. So inside of public, we've got JavaScript. So inside of JavaScript, I'm going to make a new JavaScript file. And I'll just call it scripts.js. What we want to do is use JavaScript to attach a confirmation box. So we can use jQuery. So any element with a class of confirmation, and it's clicked, we've got a little callback function. So what we're going to do is attach the class of confirmation onto that button. And then anywhere in our application we want this message to appear, we can just use this class. So what we want to do is use return, and we'll use the confirm method in JavaScript. You guys have probably written, are you doing any jQuery right now in your class? No, you haven't done any jQuery.
Well, we have done jQuery in the past, but
You have done it in the past.
yeah, nothing new.
Okay, so you probably, here's an so now we can attach this script file. I think our page, let me just look at our page. Our page is probably using our header. Yeah, it is. That's good. And I think our header, yeah, it's including jQuery, which is good because we need jQuery. So underneath, I realize in a real site, we'd probably put the JavaScript stuff in the footer instead. I'm just going to leave it in the header for now rather than creating a footer. So let's also now link to our so now we've linked to jQuery, we've linked to Bootstrap's JavaScript. We're also now linking to our own custom JavaScript file. So just put it in a link inside of your, so this file is in partials, it's header.ejs. So add a link to our own JavaScript here. So now all of our pages have access to that little jQuery function we just wrote. So we've got this function in here. This file is now linked to our header. Our header is included at the top of our view. So what should we do here in order to enable that function when the user clicks the delete button? How do we tie it all together now? I can go ahead and reload this. I'm still not going to get a delete confirmation yet. I have to do one more thing. Yeah, so on our link, we could add it really on the anchor tag or on the button. It doesn't matter. If we apply this class of confirmation, so this class goes to our header, header goes to script, and scripts has this event handler. When any element with a class of confirmation is clicked, pop up that message and return a true or false, depending on whether the user clicks OK or cancel. So now if I refresh, to figure out what we did wrong. That wasn't quite what I was expecting. Let's see what my JavaScript console says. Okay, interesting. Bootstrap's JavaScript requires jQuery. Well, that's interesting. Oh, it didn't work because I have a space here in my jQuery link. So my jQuery functions don't run. I just copied and pasted this from the CDN online. So make sure, and I think I've got the same problem here. Maybe not. No. So that link's okay. So I had a space before the .js, so my jQuery didn't fire, my confirmation didn't work. We'll try this again. So now if I go and delete, actually I'll create a new one. To be deleted. Okay, we got to obviously do one other thing. We didn't get an error. My confirmation didn't work. But no JavaScript error, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to see, maybe having these in our header is maybe my issue. And we may need to put those down at the bottom instead. So here's what I'm going to do. We'll try this. I'll go into my views and partials. We'll try making a footer and see if that makes a difference. So I'm going to make a new EJS file called footer. And in here, we'll just end the body, end the HTML. And I'm going to move those 3 JavaScript links down here. So I'm going to take them out of my header. So I've got jQuery, I've got Bootstrap's JavaScript, and we've got our own custom JavaScript. I'm just going to take those out of the header. Put them in the footer. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to replace this end tags. So we'll try and include our JavaScript through the footer. We'll see if this makes a difference by having the scripts down at the bottom. If not, I'll have to scratch my head with it over the break for a few minutes. I mean, our application probably should be set up this way. Whoops, and this should be .. Worked for you. You mean without putting it in the footer? It worked?
Well, with the footer.
With the footer, okay. Did it work before the scripts were in the footer? All right, well, let's see what happens. Yeah, so obviously it's an order of operations problem by having the scripts there first. So when I click cancel, nothing happens. When I click delete and okay, now it runs. Okay, so we do need to put that stuff in the footer. We could put our footer on our other views as well. We probably should. We don't really need to. This is the only page where we're using any JavaScript is that for that delete. So probably we should have the footer on all of our views, on add and index as well. If we wanted to use other JavaScript, we'd certainly want to embed that footer. Okay, I can display any part of the code that anybody needs to see.
Could you hit an article
So we need Mongoose. So these two are here by the generator creates those are here by default. We added those.
When I go to articles, I'm getting article.find is not a function.
If article.find is not a function, that means one of several things. So it's not recognizing that this is a valid Mongoose schema. Do you have a models folder, an article.js? And it's linked to Mongoose and exported as article? Okay. Do you have this reference to it on line 5 that I've highlighted? And it says you're connected to your database when you launch your application in the command prompt. It should say connected to MongoDB, or does it say database error?
Which one? Mongo and Mongo?
Well, both. Is Mongo running? That would be your issue. Anybody want to see any other piece of the code? Yeah, we're going to take a break now.
Can you put up the articles.js at the bottom what we just actually did?
Yeah. There. That entire section from 94 to 109, that is the root handler that we need.